I am the wife of Xiao Jing, yet upon his ascension to the throne, he bestowed upon me the title of noble consort. Out of love for him, I dutifully embraced this role. However, if I were to relive this life, I would choose not to be a consort. One, when I awoke, it was not in the Imperial chamber, but rather in my own boudoir. As I surveyed the familiar yet foreign decor, a flicker of confusion coursed through my mind. Did I not perish upon the bed in the Imperial palace? I distinctly recall the palace maids lamenting my demise with cries of noble consort has passed away. My reverie was interrupted by the arrival of Chunhua. Miss, I have retrieved the pleated skirt from the weaving house. I glanced at the garment in Chunhua's hands. It was the very dress I wore when I first encountered Xiao Jing. Thus, it dawned on me that I had been reborn to a time prior to our meeting. Indeed, it seems there exist such fantastical occurrences in this world. As I beheld the rose-pink hue, an inexplicable restlessness stirred within me. I had long ceased to favor that color. One might even say I detested it. Recalling the Empress's words regarding color as a measure of status, I could not help but regard the dress with growing disdain. Chunhua, I recall I possess a black gold cloud-embroidered shirt. Fetch that one instead. Following my directive, Chunhua returned with the requested attire. As I gazed at my reflection, I saw a youthful visage, brimming with vitality, rather than a frail and melancholic figure. Given this chance to start anew, Xiao Jing, I resolve not to marry you in this lifetime. Just as I prepared to depart, I chanced upon my returning father and respectfully saluted him. After he acknowledged me with a nod, he made to leave and I hurried forward. Father, the young lady from the Li family has recently fallen ill and will likely be absent from today's flower viewing banquet. Perhaps it would be best for my sister to accompany me instead. My father regarded me momentarily before conceding. Very well, let Yunxi join you. She has been pestering me for quite some time. My heart momentarily paused. Indeed, I shall seek my sister at once. 2. As we journeyed, Chunhua occasionally cast glances in my direction, ultimately unable to restrain herself. Miss, the young lady of the Li family is not suffering from a cold. Yes, I am aware. Chunhua, please fetch that pleated Rui skirt for the second young lady. Miss, you hold great affection for that skirt. And the second young lady is unaware it is in your possession. Why do you willingly offer it to her? She has already taken so many things from our courtyard. It matters not. If she desires it, let us bestow it upon her. Though Chunhua remained puzzled, she complied with my request. Yunxi had a penchant for appropriating my belongings. In my previous life, when I was wed, my father gifted me the pearl that my mother had left for me, yet Yunxi audaciously demanded it from me. A request my father tacitly approved, leaving me no choice but to relinquish it. I took Yunxi to the flower viewing banquet, and she wore the very pleated Rui skirt I had sent her. Throughout the journey, Yunxi chattered incessantly, inquiring what I should pay heed to at such an event. I took her hand, saying it is merely a customary flower viewing banquet, attended by young ladies of noble birth of our age. Just behave as you normally would. Upon arrival, rather than mingling with the crowd as I had in my previous life, I sought a secluded alcove. Observing Yunxi as she ventured off in search of companions, I did not intervene but simply sipped my tea. It was at a flower viewing banquet that I first encountered Xiao Jing in my past existence. The host of this banquet had no connection to the Prince of An's estate, and no one had anticipated Xiao Jing's appearance. I had dropped my handkerchief, which he picked up. During our conversation, I discovered that he was aware of my identity as a girl from the Yun family. This encounter became the catalyst for our gradual acquaintance. After I reached maturity, he came to my home to propose to my father. Fearing that my status was unworthy of him, I longed to decline the marriage, even though I harbored feelings for him. However, he simply told me that he desired me as a person, not merely to marry a title. He expressed his deep affection, assuring me that he cared not for social standing, but for me alone. Chunhua's words brought me back to the present. Miss, I have heard that His Highness the Prince of An has arrived, bringing with him a rare flowering tree. 3. I declined Chunhua's suggestion. I had witnessed that flower in my previous life. It was a camellia, a flower that blooms with solitary elegance, transcending the seasons of summer and autumn to flourish in the cold of winter. I remained in the alcove, sipping tea and noticing Chunhua's curiosity. I sent her off to admire the blossoms. Shortly thereafter, sounds emerged from below, and I raised my gaze to see none other than Xiao Jing and Yunxi. I set down my teacup, regarding the two with a hint of amusement. Before I could act, they had already crossed paths. Disinterested in their conversation, I quietly slipped away. I sought out Chunhua, and as I descended the stairs, I intentionally twisted my ankle, letting out a gasp. Chunhua, noticing my injury, hurried over. Miss, are you all right? It is all my fault for being so playful. I grasped her hand. It is of no consequence. Please ask someone to inform the maidservant attending Yunxi that we shall return to the estate. In the carriage, Chunhua's gaze was filled with concern, and she suddenly exclaimed, Miss, where is your hairpin? Did it fall at the banquet? I shall send someone to search for it. It is of no matter, merely a hairpin. It is no longer of use. Upon returning to the estate, Chunhua had already summoned a physician. It was but a sprain, nothing grave. Chunhua was dispatched to prepare medicine, leaving me alone in the room, finally able to relax. It turned out that feigning vitality could be quite exhausting. Now, having not encountered Xiaojing, it seemed that our destinies would remain unentangled in this life. I had expected that upon seeing him, my heart would stir. Yet it remained as tranquil as a still lake. My affections for him had long since been depleted through his repeated abandonments. I reclined on the couch, gradually succumbing to slumber. My current state of mind truly could not support this body. For, in my dreams, I once again encountered Xiaojing. It was a scene from after our marriage, where I had transformed from the daughter of a historian into the princess consort of an. Countless daughters from esteemed families in the capital eagerly awaited to witness my disgrace, yet Xiaojing's affection for me quelled their anticipations. In the second year following our marriage, the crown prince met with misfortune, leading to a fierce contest among the remaining princes, ultimately resulting in Xiaojing seizing the opportunity to ascend the throne after the former emperor's passing. A sudden wave of apprehension washed over me. I both anticipated and feared that position. However, Xiaojing had yet to mention this matter, and I felt it inappropriate to broach it myself. Eventually, as preparations for his coronation commenced, the rumors in the capital grew increasingly insistent. Xiaojing confided in me, stating that upon his ascension, he required the support of influential factions within the court, particularly those aligned with the chancellor. Thus, the empress must be the daughter of the chancellor. My teacup shattered upon striking the ground. Xiaojing, in distress, gathered me into his embrace. Zhao Zhao, I know this situation has caused you distress. Yet, we are compelled by circumstances. I shall elevate you to the status of noble consort. You are the sole one in my heart. I noted the tremor in Xiaojing's form as I caressed his face, offering him solace. Husband, I trust you. It is of no concern. Upon receiving my affirmation, Xiaojing eagerly pressed his lips to mine. Zhao Zhao, this shall be the only time I will subject you to such hardship. I remained silent, responding only to Xiaojing. Unbeknownst to him, once he fell into a deep slumber, tears streamed from my eyes as I lay in bed. The demotion from wife to concubine is an affront that no woman can accept. Yet, I found myself compelled to acquiesce, for the political landscape was fraught with peril. I could not add to his burdens. Chunhua roused me from my slumber, and upon awakening, I noticed my face was streaked with tears. 5. Chunhua brought the medicine, and I lingered in the courtyard, using my injury as an excuse. When I ventured out again, my father summoned me to the ancestral hall. I walked there alone, and as I entered, my father instructed the servants to withdraw and close the door. Yun Zhao kneel. Though perplexed, I complied. My father struck my hand with a ruler. I entrusted you with taking your sister to the flower viewing banquet, and you allowed her to associate with a young man. Do you understand the importance of a woman's reputation? How can you fulfill your role as an elder sister? I stifled the pain, feigning ignorance, and cried out. I do not comprehend what you are saying, father. I was injured and returned home early. I am wronged. My father cast aside the ruler, leaving me with the command to kneel in the ancestral hall for a night before storming out. Once he departed, I composed my expression, gently wiping away my tears. In my previous life, my interactions with Xiaojing had not elicited such a reaction from my father. Yet, upon reflection, it was understandable. He would hardly wish for his cherished daughter to become embroiled in power struggles. In my past life, Xiaojing had first consulted my father regarding our marriage before addressing me. At that time, I believed that marriage was a matter of parental arrangement and matchmaking, and I paid little heed to it. Now, I surmised that my father likely considered the benefits of such a union before granting his consent. Yet he had forgotten to take my feelings into account. Now that this situation had fallen upon Yunxi, he was suddenly alarmed. I recognized that my father did not cherish me, as I bore a striking resemblance to my mother. He felt guilt towards her, hence his aversion to my face. It was rather amusing that I still yearned for my father's affection. I dispatched Chunhua to inquire about Xiaojing, yet being a prince, he was difficult to investigate. Aside from some rumors among the populace, nothing could be uncovered. I had contemplated seeking an opportunity for revenge, even if it meant mutual destruction. Yet I found no prospect whatsoever. That night, I dreamt of Jinhe, who was preparing to cross the river of oblivion. Mother, Jinhe is leaving. I do not blame father anymore. Mother, will you move forward? I awoke with a start, my eyes brimming with tears. Chunhua informed me that Yunxi's association with Xiaojing would be solidified after next spring, when Yunxi came of age. The fate between the two of us has been sealed. Xiaojing and I have irrevocably severed our ties. I long to return to my maternal home, no longer wishing to linger in the capital. The following day, I penned a letter and dispatched it to my grandfather's residence. My desire to leave the capital is resolute. I have had more than enough of this place from my past life. I awaited my grandfather's response. Yunxi had a quarrel with her father. Yet he ultimately consented to the marriage. Perhaps Xiaojing had promised some condition. On the day of the family banquet, I arrived only to discover that Xiaojing was also present. He had come to escort Yunxi home and had matters to discuss with my father. The moment our eyes met, I noticed a flicker of confusion in his gaze. I hastily averted my eyes and took my seat. Xiaojing stood frozen, asking, Lord Yun, who is this young lady? My father quickly interjected, this is my eldest daughter, Yun Zhao. Come now, Zhao Zhao, pay your respects to His Highness, the Prince of An. I rose and offered my courtesy to Xiaojing. He nodded in acknowledgement and smiled, saying, I had no idea that Lord Yun had an elder daughter. Strangely, my father and Xiaojing's conversation did not shy away from our presence. It was through their discourse that I learned of Xiaojing's appointment as a temporary censor, tasked with overseeing the supply of military provisions. Setting down my chopsticks, I excused myself from the table. Their dialogue solidified the doubts that had lingered in my heart. I had been perplexed as to why I was the chosen one. Now it became evident. Xiaojing's ascension to the throne was no mere coincidence, but a long-conceived plan. From our very first meeting, everything had been orchestrated by him. The daughter of a historian he could manipulate, and a father-in-law who could serve his purpose. I felt a chill of apprehension. In my past life, as his wife, I had never truly seen through him. Upon receiving my grandfather's letter in reply, I sought out my father to inform him of my impending journey to my maternal home. He paused, taken aback. For how long? He inquired. I did not respond, for I was uncertain myself. My father gazed at me, sighing, Zhaoer, I regret what transpired the other day. I looked at him, intending to clarify matters. But words eluded me, and I merely stated, Father, please take care of yourself. After all, despite everything, he had raised me. Since the decision to visit my maternal home had been made, a sense of relief washed over me. I accompanied Chunhua to the market in the capital to procure local specialties to bring back. In my haste, I collided with a young gentleman, and I quickly apologized. Looking up, I was taken aback to find that it was he Gu Junin, a formidable general at Xiaojing's side. I do beg your pardon. It was my carelessness that caused this incident, I said. Gu Junin smiled. Surely, it would not be too much to ask for a cup of tea? I was momentarily stunned by his friendly demeanor, recalling that in my previous life, he had always been rather aloof. We went to a tea house, and while the attendant served tea, Gu Junin introduced himself. I listened with feigned nonchalance until he mentioned my mother's name. It dawned on me that she had been his mentor in landscape painting, a curious twist of fate. After finishing our tea, I returned home only to find Xiaojing there as well. I furrowed my brow, puzzled by his unexpected presence. Chunhua whispered to me, His Highness, the Prince of An, received a rare orchid and specifically came to present it to your father. I greeted Xiaojing and retreated to my quarters. As I prepared my belongings, Chunhua entered, informing me that Xiaojing had accidentally injured his head and had fainted. My hands paused in their task. Father must have summoned a physician. He will likely be fine. Initially, I thought little of the incident, but for reasons unknown, Xiaojing suddenly barged into my courtyard. He appeared disheveled, his head bandaged, looking quite the wreck. My father and Yunxi were in hot pursuit, unable to even grasp his clothing. Xiaojing shouted Zhao Zhao as he ran towards me, tightening my heart. I quickly commanded Chunhua to secure the door. He pounded on it vigorously, exclaiming, "Zhao Zhao, open the door. I have something to discuss with you." I sat inside, responding, "I implore His Highness to exercise restraint. Your actions are quite unbecoming." The hurried footsteps indicated that my father and Yun Shi were nearing. Xiao Jing continued to shout, "Zhao Zhao, I am Xiao Lang. I remember everything now." Hearing him refer to himself as Xiao Lang sent a jolt through me. Did this mean that he too had been reborn? I opened the door just in time to hear him mention our children. "Zhao Zhao, I am your husband. We have children." A surge of rage overcame me, and, disregarding decorum, I struck Xiao Jing across the face. How dare he bring up my children? I beseech His Highness to regain his senses and cease speaking such nonsense that tarnishes my reputation. My father, taken aback by my slap, quickly pushed me aside. Tears welled in my eyes. I had nearly forgotten my children, yet Xiao Jing insisted on reminding me. I glared at him, my eyes reflecting my fury. My father had Xiao Jing escorted away. Yun Shi shot me a furious glance. "Yun Zhao, my engagement to Xiao Jing is nearly finalized. Do not entertain any thoughts of sabotage." I regarded her coldly. "If he is indeed yours, then ensure he remains under your watch, lest he runs amok." Some of the servants in my courtyard, with loose tongues, had spread word of the night's events. Now, who in the capital did not know that I sought to claim my sister's betrothed? Chunhua worried over the matter, but I was unconcerned. I had endured my fair share of rumors in my past life. After all, they would not manifest as tangible accusations against me. What was there to fear? Besides, my father had witnessed everything. He was aware that the incident stemmed from Xiao Jing, yet he could not afford to offend him, allowing the rumors to proliferate unchecked. I reassured Chunhua, "Do not fret over trifles. In a few days, we shall depart for my maternal home, and once we leave the capital, who will remember my name?" I handed Chunhua a cup of tea to soothe her. Suddenly, my father sent word that there were esteemed guests in the front hall. I tidied my attire and made my way there only to find Gu Junin. I gaped at the array of betrothal gifts laid out before me. My father, noticing my arrival, quickly announced, "Zhao, this is Master Gu from the Gu family, here to propose." I turned to Gu Junin, but before he could speak, I interrupted, "Father. Master Gu, I must respectfully decline." My father appeared anxious. Zhao, this is a fine match. We would be fortunate to be allied with the Gu family. And given the current situation, an engagement would be beneficial. I coughed, and my father suddenly remembered Gu Junin's presence, growing somewhat flustered. "Master Gu is a fine gentleman. Yun Zhao is unworthy of him." Furthermore, my grandfather recently wrote, mentioning that I had been betrothed to young Master Zhou from a family friend of his during my childhood. This visit to my maternal home would also serve to finalize that arrangement. My father furrowed his brow, recalling, there is indeed some truth to that. I bowed to Gu Junin, saying, "I hope you will take these gifts back." Gu Junin regarded me with a hint of scrutiny before ultimately departing. After bowing to my father, I left the front hall. Before I could return to my quarters, Gu Junin intercepted me halfway. I looked at him leaning against the wall, not intending to engage, merely wishing to sidestep him. He reached out to block my path. "Why do you refuse?" he asked. I looked up into his eyes and replied, "Why do you come to propose?" Gu Junin fell silent. "Have you heard the rumors, and do you pity me?" Upon uttering my words, I stepped forward, only to feel Gu Junin grasp my wrist. I hastily shook him off, saying, "I hope you will exercise restraint, young master." Gu Junin immediately released his hold, declaring, "It is not merely due to rumors, Yun Zhao, I am genuinely fond of you." As I listened to his words, a cold laugh bubbled within me. The notion of love at first sight was a folly I had indulged in during my previous life, and it was utterly foolish. However, I share no acquaintance with young Master Gu. If it is only due to our interaction at the tea house, then your sentiments seem rather capricious. Perhaps my words struck a harsh chord, for Gu Junin stood frozen in place. I returned to the courtyard. In my past life, Gu Junin was poised to be the top scholar in the forthcoming Imperial examination. He possessed great talent and was destined for the court. As for Xiao Jing, despite his transgressions against me, he held the loyalty of the common folk. Thus, I would not involve myself in their struggles. My only desire was to depart, hoping my exit would not significantly alter the course of events. Realizing the absurdity of my thoughts, I could not suppress a derisive laugh. How overly sentimental I was. A mere woman wielding little influence over the grand scheme of things. After much ado, I finally returned to my maternal grandfather's home. The scenery along the way enlightened me as to why my mother's landscape paintings were so exquisite. My grandmother awaited me at the entrance, and as I alighted from the carriage, I noticed her eyes glistening with tears at the sight of me. I hurried over and took her hand, saying, "Grandmother, Zhao Zhao has arrived." With tears brimming in her eyes, my grandmother and I exchanged heartfelt inquiries at the door, while my grandfather observed us with a smile, urging us to enter and continue our conversation indoors. He arranged a family banquet, and my uncle, aunt, and cousin also joined us. That night, as I lay in bed reflecting on my time with my grandmother, my heart brimmed with sweetness. How long had it been since I had encountered such warmth? In my previous life within the palace, every corner concealed peril. Since my rebirth, I had been preoccupied with escape, neglecting to rekindle old connections. Remembering my grandmother's tears upon our reunion, I understood their source. My mother was her only daughter, married off to the capital at a tender age. Who could have predicted her misjudgment in people, leading to her melancholy? As my mother's sole daughter, bearing a striking resemblance to her, it was inevitable that my grandmother would feel sorrow upon seeing me. I remained at my grandfather's home until the new year, during which time I refrained from seeking news from the capital, regarding myself as disconnected from them. Watching Chunhua prepare new garments, I couldn't help but chuckle. "Chunhua, since you arrived at grandfather's house, how many outfits have you made? At this rate, you'll become quite the plump girl by next year." Chunhua feigned annoyance, saying, "Miss, you cannot blame me. The old lady treats us so well, giving you all the delicacies. I am merely reaping the benefits of your good fortune." Hearing her mention my grandmother's favoritism towards me filled my heart with joy. "Come, let us go make our New Year's clothes." Upon returning from the market with Chunhua, I overheard voices in the front hall, likely my grandfather entertaining guests. I intended to retreat to my quarters, but my grandmother beckoned me over, saying, "Zhao Zhao, come. Meet the guests." I adjusted my attire and entered the hall, where unfamiliar faces greeted me. After a brief bow, my grandmother took my hand, introducing me, "Zhao Zhao. This is the grandson of my dear friend, Zhou Chang." I offered another bow to Zhou Chang. After spending a while in the hall, I gradually grasped my grandmother's intentions and excused myself back to my quarters. That evening, my grandmother invited me to her room for dinner. She served me a bowl of soup, stating, "Zhao Zhao, your grandfather has already written to your father, informing him that your coming-of-age ceremony will be held here. A few days ago, your father replied, granting his consent." "Thank you, grandmother." My grandmother looked at me intently, asking, "What do you think of Zhou Chang? Anyone favored by grandmother must surely be a good person." Suddenly, my grandmother's demeanor turned serious. "Zhao Zhao, you understand my intentions. Ultimately, it depends on your wishes. I was thinking of arranging your coming-of-age ceremony after the new year, and then finding a suitable match for you, so you can be closer to me. Though the capital is prosperous, it is ultimately a treacherous place. Would it be better for you to stay here?" Tears threatened to spill from her eyes, and I knew she was reminded of my mother. "Grandmother, I have returned with the intent to stay here. What I just said was sincere. What you provide for me is undoubtedly the best." After the new year, the weather began to warm, but unfortunate news arrived from the capital. The emperor was gravely ill. I meticulously calculated the timeline, realizing it deviated from my previous life by over a year. Could it be the handiwork of Xiaojing? Never mind. It was no longer of my concern. My grandmother and aunt organized a grand coming-of-age ceremony for me. That evening, as Chunhua sorted through the birthday gifts I received, a phoenix hairpin caught my eye. I took the hairpin from Chunhua's hands. It was unmistakably the one Xiaojing had gifted me in my past life. He had presented it to me when he decided to bestow the title of Empress upon the daughter of the Prime Minister, claiming it was crafted on the day of his ascension. I had only worn that hairpin once, and on that occasion, the Empress had chastised me for overstepping my bounds, resulting in my punishment of copying the code of conduct for women. Xiaojing had not interceded on my behalf. "Chunhua, who gifted this phoenix hairpin?" Chunhua examined the box the hairpin came in, saying, "Strangely, there's no note left behind. I believe it was a lady who sent it." But I didn't pay much attention, as I did not recognize her. Holding the hairpin, I pondered, "It's nothing, you may leave now." If it was indeed from Xiaojing, then he, too, must have been reborn. Otherwise, he would not have sent me this hairpin. The thought of Xiaojing stirred a sense of unease within me. I merely wished to distance myself. Why could he not let me be? After a little more than half a month, news reached me that the emperor had passed away and Xiaojing had ascended to the throne. For reasons unknown. A sense of disquiet settled in my heart. My grandmother initially intended to finalize my marriage with Zhou Chang after my coming-of-age ceremony, but the national mourning delayed those plans. Nonetheless, Zhou Chang and I got along well. He understood my fondness for tending to flowers and would often go to great lengths to procure rare and precious plants for me. Thus, time passed. And the political situation stabilized. My grandmother explained to my father my reasons for not returning to the capital, and, during my time with Zhou Chang, I gradually discerned his character. One day, as Zhou Chang and I were out on errands, his mother was celebrating a birthday, and he wished for my assistance in selecting a set of jewelry for her. After visiting several shops, we finally found something suitable. As we exited, I thought I glimpsed Xiaojing among the crowd, but it was only for a fleeting moment before he disappeared. I attributed it to my imagination, after all. Xiaojing was now a busy emperor and would hardly be found in such a place. Zhou Chang noticed my momentary daze and quietly asked if I felt unwell. "It's nothing," I replied. Back at the residence, Chunhua brought me some fruit and I instructed her to brew a pot of tea. Perhaps due to the day's exertions, I retired early. In the middle of the night, a sudden gust of wind awakened me. I realized the window was left ajar. Although summer had arrived, it was still the early days of the season, and closing the window seemed prudent. As I approached to shut it, a shadow crouched beneath the window startled me. Just as I was about to cry out, a hand covered my mouth. I struggled, but a familiar voice whispered in my ear, "Zhao Zhao, it's me." It was indeed Xiaojing. I had not been mistaken. He had come here. Xiaojing released his grip, and I swiftly closed the window, only to be taken aback as he reached out to stop me. I cast a cold gaze upon him. "Your Highness, no, Your Majesty. Is there a matter that requires my attention?" However, to intrude upon a woman's chamber at such a late hour is rather inappropriate. Xiaojing regarded me with a steady look. "Zhao Zhao, I am aware of your return. Tomorrow at noon, I shall await you at the tea house in the west of the city. If you do not come, I shall seek you out at your residence." As I was about to retort, Xiaojing departed. The following morning, I instructed Chunhua to decline Zhou Chang's invitation and went alone to the tea house to meet him. Xiaojing was already waiting there, accompanied by another person, Zhao Waner, the daughter of the chancellor. I glanced at Xiaojing, my eyes filled with curiosity. What was his intention? He perceived my confusion and commanded a guard to pry open Zhao Waner's mouth, revealing to my horror that her tongue was absent. I staggered back in fright, and Xiaojing quickly steadied me, signaling for the guards to remove Zhao Waner. "Zhao Zhao, have I frightened you?" "It was not my intention. I merely wished for you to know that I have punished Zhao Waner," he said. Regaining my composure, I looked at Xiaojing and realized that he, too, had been reborn, and he understood my situation as well. Thus, I saw no reason to feign ignorance any longer. Taking a sip of tea, I stated, "I shall not play games with you, Xiaojing. You have punished Zhao Waner. What about yourself?" Ignoring his expression, I continued, "Were her actions not tacitly approved by you? The lives of my 2 children have yet to be avenged." Xiaojing's face turned pale. "Zhao Zhao, I interrupted him. Xiaojing, do you know why I have come to my maternal family?" A realization seemed to dawn on him, draining the color from his face, his lips ashen. I believed he understood the reason, as I was reminded of my dear children, my heart aching, tears streaming down my face. I looked at Xiaojing and pleaded, "Xiaolang, please spare me. In this lifetime, I had already sought to escape. Let me go." Perhaps witnessing my tears or being wounded by my words, Xiaojing turned and left. I watched his retreating figure, feeling an unexpected lightness, hoping he could find clarity. Upon returning home, I fell ill, prompting Chunhua to urgently summon a doctor to care for me. In a daze, I seemed to dream of my past life. I had been pregnant in the 4th year of Xiaojing's reign. When he learned of my pregnancy, he was overjoyed, ordering the inner court to send numerous gifts. However, gradually, a frown began to mar his countenance. I knew it was due to pressure from the chancellor, as the reigning empress had not yet conceived. When I was 4 months along, the empress also became pregnant, and Xiaojing visibly relaxed. Both the empress and I busied ourselves with our pregnancies, having little interaction. At 8 months, the empress went out to offer sacrifices and suffered a miscarriage. I, too, experienced an unexpected premature birth, yet thankfully, I safely delivered a pair of twins. However, at the moment of their birth, I lost consciousness. When I awoke, only my daughter remained by my side. I turned to my maid and discovered Xiao Jing sitting beside me. The moment he noticed I had regained consciousness, he dismissed the attendants. I gazed at Xiao Jing. Xiao Lang, where is our son? Xiao Jing remained silent, and a dreadful understanding began to dawn upon me. My already pale face became ghostly. He was sent to the Empress, wasn't he? Seeing that I had guessed correctly, Xiao Jing hastily attempted to soothe me. Zhao Zhao. He is merely being temporarily cared for by the Empress. The Chancellor is grieving over his daughter's loss, and I had no choice. Xiao Lang, what about me? That is my flesh and blood. I have not even seen his face. Will my child have to call someone else mother? Xiao Lang, please have some compassion for me. Xiao Jing embraced me tightly. Zhao Zhao, wait for me. Within a year, that child will surely return to your palace. Zhao Zhao, trust me. Yet, that child never returned. When he was 2 months old, a wet nurse in the Empress's palace neglected her duties, leading to a tragic incident. Afterward, Xiao Jing visited my palace, but I barred him from entering. Thus began our Cold War. I was unwilling to extend an olive branch, and Xiao Jing refused to lower himself. I devoted myself to caring for my daughter. The pain of losing my son dulled somewhat by my busyness. I did not visit the Empress again, and Xiao Jing granted me this grace. A year later, the Empress remained the Empress, and the Chancellor remained the Chancellor. During these years, Xiao Jing was preoccupied with military campaigns, often leading troops himself. The next time I encountered Xiao Jing was at Jin He's 4th birthday celebration, and I was puzzled as to why he had come to see us. After the feast, I learned that Xiao Jing had suffered losses in his consecutive battles and had lost the war against a neighboring country. They demanded a hostage, and he had initially intended to send a royal child. However, under pressure from the court, they insisted on a direct descendant of the emperor. I looked at Xiao Jing, feeling as though the man I loved was gradually becoming a stranger. Xiao Jing, if you dare to harm Jin He, I will fight you to the end. I returned to my quarters, hastily packing my belongings. I could not remain in the palace any longer. I wanted to take Jin He and leave, to escape far away. Yet, she was taken by the Empress. Accompanied by the wet nurse, she cried out mother and reached her tiny hands toward me. I pleaded with Xiao Jing, Your Majesty. It was my fault. I should not have been angry with you. I ought to serve you properly. I was wrong. For the sake of our past as husband and wife, please spare Jin He. She is all I have left. Let us find another girl of similar age instead. Your Majesty, I beseech you. Yet, Xiao Jing merely held me closer. Zhao Zhao, you still have me. Rest assured, once we have regained our strength, Jin He shall return home. I am unsure where I found the strength to break free, my eyes blazing with fury as I looked at Xiao Jing. Wait? I have waited, and that is why I became the Guifei. I have waited, and that is why my son lost his life. If I wait once more, my daughter will be lost too. I was suddenly jolted awake from my dream, tears streaming down my face. My Jin He, who so feared the cold, had ultimately perished in the lake at night. I sat there until dawn. As soon as daylight broke, I called for Chunhua to come in today. I wished to visit the temple. I wanted to pay my respects to my son and daughter from my past life, so I decided to take Chunhua with me. Little did I know that this oversight would provide Xiao Jing with an opportunity. I stirred from a haze, realizing I was in a carriage. When awareness returned, I found myself in the palace. Gazing at the familiar decor, I recognized it as the chamber I had occupied in my previous life. I sat upright abruptly, only to find Chunhua absent from my side. Looking at the unfamiliar maid beside my bed, I commanded, I wish to see His Majesty. In barely the time it takes to brew a cup of tea, Xiao Jing hurried in. Upon seeing him, I suddenly felt calm. Where is Chunhua? Your maid? She is being held in the side hall. I have already dispatched someone to release her. I sighed in relief, grateful that Chunhua was unharmed. Xiao Jing, take me back to my maternal family. Xiao Jing chuckled at my words. Zhao Zhao, you have already arrived in the capital. It has been 4 or 5 days. Your family has likely even conducted your funeral. I stood frozen, shocked by his words. What do you mean? Xiao Jing, what have you done? Yao Zhao. Having brought you here, how could I possibly let you leave? I was imprisoned within the palace, having attempted fasting, self-harm, and even assassination against Xiao Jing, all in vain. Until I received news from Gu Junin, which sparked a revelation within me. Whatever the matter, it could be resolved through open dialogue. I specially instructed the maidservant to prepare a sumptuous feast and summoned Xiao Jing to join me. Xiao Jing arrived in high spirits, momentarily taken aback by the array of dishes before him, before breaking into a smile. Zhao Zhao has summoned me. Has she come to a realization? I served the dishes without offering a reply. Zhao Zhao, this spread resembles the artistry of the Imperial kitchen, yet you previously prepared meals for me yourself. As your majesty has said, that was in the past. Xiao Jing paused in his actions of serving food. No matter. Your majesty. I was reborn on the morning of the flower-viewing banquet. That pleated skirt was deliberately made for Yun Shi. I believe you understand my intent. Xiao Jing interrupted. Zhao Zhao. Do not speak further. I initially contemplated avenging my child by eliminating you and Zhao Wan'er. Each night, I dreamt of Jin He, who implored me to seek retribution for her. I could hardly sleep, as her cries haunted my slumber. Yet, what could I do? I am but a fragile woman, unable even to see your face or glean any news about you. How could I dare to think of revenge? Gradually, I came to terms with it. The events of the past life belong to another time. Heaven has granted me a second chance, surely not to let me fall back into the same whirlpool of despair. You are a noble ruler, yet not a good husband or father. I had resolved to escape this realm of turmoil, but why can you not let me go? I merely desire a peaceful existence. The last life was fraught with suffering. The mention of the past life brought forth tears I could not suppress. After our conversation, Xiao Jing did not seek me out for several days. When we met again, he appeared significantly thinner, his demeanor somewhat intoxicated. He arrived in silence, gazing at me for a long while before finally speaking. Zhao Zhao, tonight Gu Junin awaits you at the west gate. He will escort you and your maidservant back to your maternal home. At his words, my eyes brightened with hope. I intended to inquire further, but Xiao Jing departed before I could voice my question. Watching his retreating figure, I ultimately held my tongue. That evening, I went to the west gate, where Chen Hua and Gu Junin were indeed waiting. My heart leaped with joy. I bowed to Gu Junin, saying, "Thank you, young Master Gu. I am truly grateful for your assistance." We journeyed day and night for 3 or 4 days to return home. I could hardly spare a thought for Gu Junin, hastening to see my maternal grandmother and grandfather. He intercepted me, offering a set of peasant clothing, and I understood his intention, expressing my gratitude. I ran towards my home. Seeing the white silk hanging there, my heart ached with sorrow. Grandfather, grandmother, Zhao Zhao is safe. Zhao Yao has returned. I watched my grandmother emerge, trembling, her hair now even more gray. She looked at me with disbelief in her eyes. Zhao Zhao, is it truly you? I rushed to embrace her, exclaiming, "Grandmother. It is Zhao Zhao, I have come back." She caressed my head. I explained to my grandfather that I had only been injured on the mountain and was rescued by a peasant woman, which allowed me to recover and return. Upon hearing about the mountain, my grandfather recalled something and instructed the servants, "Quick, go inform the Zhou family. Tell Zhou Cheng not to search the mountains any longer." I then learned that Zhou Cheng had been searching for me ever since my incident. That evening, Zhou Cheng arrived at my grandparents' home. Upon seeing me, he immediately enveloped me in his arms. Feeling somewhat embarrassed with my grandparents present, I whispered to Zhou Cheng, "Zhou Cheng, I am fine. Please let me go. Grandmother and the others are watching." He released me, and I noticed tears streaming down his face. I hurriedly offered him a handkerchief to wipe away his tears. My grandfather invited Zhou Cheng to stay for dinner. After the meal, Zhou Cheng returned home, and Chen Hua helped me freshen up before retreating to her quarters. After such an arduous journey, fatigue overcame me, and I fell asleep early. In the midst of my dreams, I sensed someone by my bedside. I opened my eyes to find my grandmother standing there. Seeing me awake, she hurriedly spoke. "Did I awaken Zhao Zhao?" I sat up and shook my head, leaning my head against her shoulder. "Grandmother, I know you have questions. Zhao Zhao was not rescued by a peasant woman, or rather, there was no injury. I went to the capital to resolve some matters, all of which have been settled. From now on, I shall remain here to accompany you." My grandmother sighed, ultimately refraining from asking more. My grandfather hosted a grand banquet to celebrate my miraculous return. He also met with the Zhou family elder, arranging my engagement to Zhou Cheng, set for the 8th day of the 5th month next year, a date deemed auspicious. My wedding gown was embroidered by my grandmother and aunt. Before my marriage, my grandmother prepared an additional dowry for me. My two cousins escorted me to my wedding. Sitting in the bridal chamber, my mindset was entirely different from that of my previous life. In the past, the disparity in our family backgrounds had filled me with trepidation. Yet in this life, I felt fortified, supported by my maternal family. I had nothing to fear. Zhou Cheng lifted my bridal veil, the candlelight illuminating his flushed face, whether from drink or joy. I could not tell. We shared a cup of nuptial wine, and Zhou Cheng held my hand. "Zhao Zhao, I have married you." I responded with a soft "From now on, Zhao Zhao belongs to me." I smiled at Zhou Cheng. "Zhou Lang, henceforth we are one family, and we shall nurture our little household together." Zhou Cheng gazed at me with bright eyes, and I returned his smile. He appeared momentarily dazed. "Wife, an exquisite moment is worth 1,000 gold pieces." Extra from Shaojing, I appeared at the flower viewing banquet with a camellia in hand, yet showcasing rare blooms was not my true intention. Upon seeing Yun Zhao in her pleated skirt, I recognized my target had arrived. I had long taken note of that dress. The daughter of the Grand Commandant, Yun Xiao. The position of Grand Commandant is not particularly high. Marrying his daughter would not incite jealousy from other noble families. Moreover, I had received word that Yun Xiao might be appointed as a temporary inspector, overseeing military grain supplies, which would serve my interests greatly. I approached her under the pretense of retrieving a handkerchief, gradually growing familiar with her. As our interactions deepened, I sensed a shift in her feelings toward me and took the initiative to express my own. Observing her bashful demeanor softened my heart unexpectedly. Once she completed her coming-of-age ceremony, I welcomed her into my household. I was aware of the gossip circulating in the capital. Asserting her family background was unworthy of my princely status. I had no intention of clarifying these rumors, for they aligned perfectly with my desires. During the year of our marriage, I gradually perceived that my utilitarian sentiments toward Yun Zhao were intertwining with genuine affection. Should I ascend the throne in the future? While Yun Zhao may not become empress, her position would undoubtedly be significant. I had her use incense to prevent pregnancy temporarily. This was not the time for children. Eventually, I seized the throne and appointed a daughter of the Zhao family as empress, which caused Yun Zhao considerable distress. However, with my persuasion, she ultimately embraced her role as a beloved consort. Now that I have ascended the throne and fulfilled my ambitions cultivated over the years, I possess a virtuous empress and a gentle, affectionate Zhao Zhao. If only the Prime Minister were to weaken further, it would be even better. After taking the throne, Zhao Zhao remained childless for a considerable time, which caused me anxiety, fearing the incense I had given her may have harmed her health. Despite consulting the Imperial physician, who assured me that the incense was only temporarily effective and would not damage her fundamentally. Eventually, Zhao Zhao became pregnant, and I was overjoyed. The political landscape gradually stabilized, and my grip on power grew stronger. The timing of this child was fortuitous. Yet, I never anticipated the Prime Minister would pressure me, asserting that the Empress had yet to bear a legitimate heir. If a legitimate son were to be born, it would pose complications. Listening to the Prime Minister's absurd reasoning, I could only laugh in disbelief. "Oh, does the Prime Minister mean to imply the Prime Minister bowed before me, saying, 'Your Majesty, I have but one daughter, Wanner. Her elder brother is currently stationed at the frontier, having recently achieved a significant victory.'" Listening to the veiled threat in his words, I clenched my fists. I understood the implication. Either this child would not be born, or if born, would belong to the Empress. My heart was in turmoil. A few days later, news arrived that the Empress was with child, and I felt a sense of relief wash over me. However, the Empress ultimately lost her pregnancy in her 4th month. Upon hearing that a visit to Qing'an Temple would ensure the birth of a son, she ventured there. Yet, the temple was notorious for its heights, and during her descent, she suffered a mishap that led to her miscarriage. I hurried to comfort both the Empress and the Prime Minister, only to learn that Zhao Zhao had given birth prematurely. Rushing to Zhao Zhao's palace, I discovered that she had delivered a pair of dragon and phoenix twins. While I was filled with joy, a shadow of worry loomed over me. If I were to take the prince to the Empress, would Zhao Zhao harbor resentment towards me? Yet, I felt powerless. The Prime Minister was using the war at the frontier to coerce me into compliance. I had no choice but to act accordingly. Upon awakening, Zhao Zhao found that I had taken her son to the Empress, and she wept inconsolably. I promised her that within a year, I would ensure the prince returned to her side and that I would topple the prime minister. However, Zhao Zhao no longer believed in me and was unwilling to wait. Unsure of how to face her, I chose to evade her, avoiding the palace for a long time. Later, that venomous Zhao Wanner managed to orchestrate the death of my son. I sought out Zhao Zhao, but she would not even allow me entry. For half a month, I attempted to reach her, but her heart remained hardened. I took to the battlefield myself, reclaiming vast territories, and used that as a pretext to rescind the Prime Minister's orders regarding the stationing of his son at the frontier. However, as fate would have it, I ultimately lost in the conflict with a neighboring state, and they demanded my child as a hostage, threatening to sacrifice the border populace otherwise. I divulged this to Zhao Zhao, only to feel her hatred for me deepen. Yet, I did not genuinely intend to send Jinhee away. I merely staged a performance for others to perceive my intentions. Behind the scenes, who could ever know the truth? I concealed my plans from Zhao Zhao. For if she believed it to be true, then so would everyone else. I allowed the Empress to take Jinhee, and as I watched Zhao Zhao weep before me, my heart felt as if it were being wrenched. My plans, however meticulously crafted, unraveled when Jinhee met with tragedy. In the dead of night, she cried out for her mother, sneaking out only to fall into a lake and drown. I felt as though the heavens had collapsed upon me. As Zhao Zhao clutched Jinhee's lifeless body, murmuring, "Jinhee is most afraid of the cold. Mother, warm Jinhee." I suppressed the news and sought others to send to the neighboring state in Jinhee's stead. After her death, Zhao Zhao fell ill. I summoned countless physicians to tend to her, yet the affliction of the heart is a malady most challenging to cure, and I could only watch her grow increasingly frail. In the year that followed, I focused on gathering strength to wage war against the neighboring state, hoping that by vanquishing them, Zhao Zhao might find solace. Yet, deep down, I recognized that I was merely deceiving myself. Upon achieving victory and returning to court, I was met with the devastating news of Zhao Yao's demise, compelling me to rush back to the palace. All that awaited me was her lifeless form. I longed to follow her, but Chunhua urged me not to taint her journey to the afterlife with my presence. Her words pierced my heart like a dagger. Indeed, Zhao Zhao would not wish to see me. 3 years after Zhao Zhao's passing, I finally found an opportunity to unseat the Prime Minister's faction. The Zhao family faced death or exile. I ruled for over 40 years, though the first half of my life was spent in relentless conflict. I ultimately fostered a realm of harmony and prosperity. I became a ruler worthy of my people, yet I failed as a husband and a father. Upon my death, the King of Hell, recognizing my accomplishments, granted me the chance to ascend to the realm of the immortals. However, I beseeched him for a chance to start anew with Zhao Zhao. The king acquiesced, but I was fated to ferry souls across the river of forgetfulness for 100 years. Fortunately, we were granted a second chance. Yet, Zhao Zhao returned with the memories of our past life, determined to flee from me in this one. Stripped of my previous memories, I wandered down many misguided paths. Once my memories returned, I confessed to Zhao Zhao, but she retreated to her maternal family. I resolved to set the affairs of the capital in order before bringing her back as empress. In this lifetime, I first dealt with the Prime Minister's family, particularly Zhao Wanner. I administered poison to my father, hastening his demise. At last, I ascended the throne and hastened to Zhao Zhao's maternal home. I presented the tongueless Zhao Wanner before Zhao Zhao, hoping to clarify matters. Yet, Zhao Zhao seemed indifferent. She only wished to escape from me. I returned to the capital alone, noticing a man by her side, one with whom she was nearly betrothed. I thought to myself that perhaps it was for the best. However, I could not bring myself to accept it. Thus, I forcibly brought Zhao Zhao to the capital. Yet I could not compel her to treat me as she once did. She resorted to fasting, self-harm, and even attempted to assassinate me. When she thrust the dagger towards me, I did not evade. I thought, if I were to die by Zhao Zhao's hand, it would be worth it. Eventually, it seemed Zhao Zhao found clarity. She invited me to dine in her palace, yet she spoke only of our children. And I realized that we could never return to the way things were. After leaving, I sought solace in alcohol, preparing to send Zhao Zhao away. I approached her reeking of spirits, fearing that if I spoke clearly, I would be unable to let her go. Zhao Zhao departed, leaving me a letter. Xiao Lang. This is the last time I shall call you so. In this new life, I hope you can still be the good emperor you were before. I witnessed the harmony of your reign in our past life. My reason for returning to my maternal family is twofold. I do not wish my existence to disrupt the balance. You are a born ruler. I simply do not wish to be a noble consort any longer. As I watched Zhao Zhao's letter grow damp with my tears, I felt a surge of panic. I could not ruin this. For it was the last remnant she left for me. I fulfilled her wish, remaining a good emperor. In my middle years, I traveled incognito and encountered Zhao Zhao's family. She had become a mother of 3, yet retained the demeanor of a youthful maiden, suggesting that Zhou Cheng treated her exceedingly well. Notably, Zhao Zhao's daughter was named Nian He. The end of the tale. Thank you for listening. Until we meet again in the next story.